Chapter 16, India, Part 2, Dalai Lama. June 1971. Richard and I quickly gather our gear and leave Sheshmeg Lake, moving to descend some 5,000 feet to the breakpoint at Chandiwith, and another 10 miles from there to Pahalgam. We need to tell the authorities what we witnessed with Leo. Somebody needs to retrieve his body. Richard and I have been silent, in shock since Leo's jump. I'm mortified. I never saw anybody take their own life. I tried to talk him out of it, thought I was making progress, then he does that? My heart goes out to Leo and his tortured soul. Why did his parents leave him the sad truth upon their death? What good did that serve? He didn't need to know that truth about himself. People can be strange. We follow the river on our way back down from Sheshmeg Lake. I am foolishly wearing rubber sandals, flip-flops, on this climb, which are hell on my feet. Heels, ankles, knees, and groin. I feel it all over every step down. I feel like we're suffering the rigors of a death march. Richard is pacing way ahead of me as I get further behind him. I'm moving slowly. It is treacherous in spots on the rugged terrain. A slip here or there and I could go tumbling down, could even slip and fall to my death. I find a nice firm walking stick to assist as a third leg crutch. The aches and pains persist with every movement along the downward trek. Richard is slowing down so I can catch up. We follow a path of craggy rocks that opens into a gap between the peaks. The raging river flows down the gap. Then a broad green meadow opens up and leads downward over hills, then craggy rocks to climb down and over, forever moving down, down, down. The only guide we have to assure we are in the correct path is a series of white paint marks on rocks, placed for heavily traveled pilgrimages to Amarnath Cave. We follow this route up, and we're following it back down. The white paint marks are not always clear, as we can go long distances and not see anything. This causes doubt and uncertainty, and lo and behold, another rock with a white paint mark appears to reassure us that we are on the right track. The rugged mountain terrain is rough on my body. My aches, pains, scrapes, and bruises are mounting. Richard is sitting on a boulder by the raging river, waiting for me to catch up with him. I limp along, using my walking stick for much-needed assistance. "Hey, Woodstock," he says. "How are you doing, mate? You all right? Are you going to make it?" I'm okay. I'm moving, making progress, steady but slow. Thanks for waiting for me. You're not blaming yourself for that kid, what he did, are you? No, I'm okay. Still in shock. I wanted to help. There was nothing you could have done. He was determined, says Richard. It's very sad, man, to see someone choose to end their life like that. It was crazy, surreal, unreal. But real it is. Leo's dead. We continue our trek downward until we finally arrive at the Chandiwith breakpoint in late afternoon after 4. We take a long break and enjoy foodstuffs from several of the tent restaurants. There are just a few mountain trekkers besides us and the eatery proprietors. It feels like we are on some grand, epic Tolkien adventure, I say. That's the guy who wrote about Middle-earth, The Hobbits, and Lord of the Rings? That's the guy, J.R.R. Tolkien. Think about it. We're on a journey, a quest that involves a variety of adventures, new lands, foreign-speaking people, strange cultures and customs, some harrowing experiences like what happened with Leo. And trekking down this damn mountain without killing ourselves too, interjects Richard. Maybe our story isn't quite as dramatic at every twist and turn. All the same, though, I'm on an epic adventure quest in my great world-wandering journey, and I realize I may never do this again my entire life, I say. I've always loved reading the heroic epics by Tolkien. He's a native son of England, mate, Very popular. Great storytelling for the imagination. Yes, mate, I think I will have to bloody well agree with you. It does feel like we're on our own special Tolkien-type journey adventure. We finish our meal, then hoist on our backpacks and head down the rest of the mountain trail to Pahalgam. We have about 10 miles to go to get back to our tent and Roger. My body is weary, but ready for this final push on this last stretch. We walk and walk while the day swiftly gives way to night. We keep trudging on. The lights from the town can now be seen. We make our way along the downward sloping trail, hobbling along. We trekkers are bracing ourselves, often in order to keep from falling forward, which is very stressful and takes a lot of concentration. Our packs do not help this dynamic, as they, too, push us forward and downward. Our campsite is still some 3 miles outside of town, along the other river that forks at Pahalgam. We make it to camp in the black of night, beat up and beat out from the mountain climbing excursion. I hit the sack and sleep like a rock, dead to the world. Next day, Richard and I walk into Pahalgam to tell the authorities what we witnessed at Sheshmeg Lake with Leo. We're questioned for several hours and fill out some forms describing what happened. A rescue crew goes up into the mountains on a helicopter and recovers the body. I spend the last couple days of our week-long tent rental just resting up at the campsite, several naps a day. My body is barely of use to me. I can truly say that mountain kicked my ass. Now it's the end of the week and it's time to pack up and get moving. Roger carries the heavy canvas tent and wooden supports hoisted over his back. Richard and I carry the 3 packs between us. In town, we drop off the tent, then head to the bus stop. My right ankle is largely swollen as I walk along with a pronounced limp. We purchase tickets and board a bus towards the main road. What a wonderful week in Pahalgam. Just to cook at the campsite next to the raging river was a joy, and to look around at all the green wooded mountains that engulfed us was pure ecstasy. We hitchhiked today. Some locals in a small town invited us to sleep in their modest home. Very friendly people. They served us a nice meal and invited us to bed down on their living room floor. Everyone is sleeping now. The bugs and spiders and insects of all kinds are just incredible here. They're everywhere, buzzing in my ear, crawling on my body, in my hair. I'm in constant motion, batting them off my face, swatting and scratching. My whole scalp is crawling. It's an endless irritant. I can't sleep. I'm still trying to recover from the aftermath of Sheshmeg mountain climb. I am not in a good frame of mind. In fact, I'm downright miserable. Then my stomach starts gurgling. Tremendous gaseous pains have me suddenly bald and bailed over. I make a break in the dark, stepping over people sleeping on the floor, heading to the bathroom, only to discover it's just a washroom with no toilet. I'm in trouble. Where's the damn bathroom? The squirts are coming. I've got diarrhea, and there's no holding back the oncoming surge. My shit splashes in a corner of the dark washroom, all over the floor and up part of the wall. I am in panic. There is just a small bucket of water in the room and one dimly lit candle. No toilet paper or rags. It's dark everywhere. I stumble around to the door and go outside to figure out how to clean myself off. I locate a bucket of water near a well and gather a bunch of tree leaves and proceed to clean up the best I can in the dark. What a terrible, disgusting thing to happen. I'm so embarrassed and ashamed. Look what I've done to the washroom at these nice people's house. I lean up against a tree. I want to sleep, but I've got insomnia. Just before sunrise, I sneak in the house and nudge awake Roger and Richard on the floor. I whisper to them what happened to me during the night in the washroom. They quietly get up, and the 3 of us leave the house and head to the main road to hitchhike. By daybreak, we hitch a ride that takes us to Jammu City. From there, we take a bus ride to the train station. We spend the night in Patincot, home of the infamous Mount Everest Hotel, known for large spiders or so the word is that gets around. Tomorrow our destination is the Kangra Valley. What a funky place India is. There's nothing like it. Next day we wait and wait at the train station. Our train doesn't depart until 2 in the morning. We're hanging out in the cheap third-class waiting area. People are laying about everywhere. Some old women wash their asses right in front of me. No shame out here, just a fact of everyday life. The train ride takes us down into the Kangra Valley. It's beautiful at daybreak, watching the new day sunrise. We're going to Dharamsala. The Dalai Lama lives nearby, up in McLeod Gunj. I must make a trip to see him before we leave this area of the world. The day is just starting, and I can already feel the heat and intense humidity. It's mid-June in India. We catch a bus ride from the train station. Tibetan people, primarily maroon-robed monks, can be spotted more and more often. Very friendly and kind-mannered people. Great vibrations emanate from here. The Tibetans carry on a unique spiritual culture centered on the practice of Buddhism and following the leadership of the Dalai Lama. We finally locate a hotel in town. I need to sleep for a couple days to get my energy restored. Traveling with little sleep over rough terrain is grueling. I unpack, take a shower, and hit the sack. Next day, I roam around the streets of Dharamsala a bit, get a bite to eat, and head back to bed for more sleep. Tibet has always been special to me since early childhood. Perhaps it was the National Geographic magazines I pored over in my youth, dreaming of visiting distant lands. This is not actually Tibet, geographically speaking, but it is the people and their culture and their holy leader. The lush green jungles of the mountain environment are mood-pervading. Many monkeys roam about, very exotic. It's been 3 days in Dharamsala, and I've mostly been catching up on my rest. But today we plan on moving up the mountain to Upper Dharamsala, also called McLeod Gunj, where the Dalai Lama lives. A little kid with a deformed hunchback comes up to me and humbly requests bakshish with his cupped hands outward. Bakshish, bakshish, he says again. The word bakshish in the East is the universal term used by beggars and those destitute, asking for a gift of charity. I've ignored many of the people as I make my way about. The beggars are everywhere. One hears the word bakshish more than any other. Some demand bakshish. Most just beg with pity, and some do catch your eyes and heart, like this poor little child. I hand over a rupee. Other itinerants see and descend upon me. I make a break to run from the potential stampede, leaving a widening distance from the pack. I slow down and walk when I see the coast is clear. We are packing up and preparing to catch a very local bus to McLeod Gunj. All aboard. We travel through the lush green jungles of the mountains. Many beautiful views and small farms dot the midway. All Tibetans everywhere. The three of us share a room at the Tibetan Memory, a small hotel and restaurant run by a wonderful, sweet old Tibetan woman wearing a chupa phum, the traditional Tibetan women's dress. The hotel is located on the main and really the only street in the village-scale town. We are across from the town well and the double row of brass prayer wheels which the monks seem to be constantly turning. Our hostess serves great tasting food. I'm getting better at eating with chopsticks, using them more as shovels from my uplifted bowl, as do the locals. The hotel has 3 rooms above a store. The restaurant is a shack across the street near the public toilets and the wash area. I go for a wander through the town and a few kilometers into the vast jungle beauty of the mountains. Wild monkeys play around, chattering everywhere up in the trees. It is amazing to walk amongst groups of Tibetan Buddhists gathered together to pray and chant and meditate. Many handheld prayer wheels are turned round and round endlessly. What a fine, peaceful place. The vibe here is so authentically spiritual, all positive and good from the highest order. This is very far out and groovy. I am in the home territory of Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama. He chose Dharamsala as the capital in exile of the Tibetan people after fleeing Chinese oppression in 1959. The divine presence of the Dalai Lama draws seekers of spiritual enlightenment from all over the globe. I walked to the Buddhist temple and monastery where the Dalai Lama lives on the edge of town. I enter the temple and take a seat next to some meditating monks. I go into my head and meditate in silence for an hour inside the temple. I've got an inkling of finding some true inner peace while here. I don't really know how to meditate like these Buddhists, but I feel good about myself when I meditate regularly. I'm getting better at keeping my attention focused and not wandering in thought so much. But it can be difficult for me at times because my energy runs at a high metabolism naturally. It's all about the breathing to slow things down. I breathe in one nostril while clamping off the other nostril with my forefinger. Then I switch nostrils to breathe out. This process of breathing tunes me into my meditation. The temple is filled with many fascinating statues of praying monks. The spiritual tranquility emanates from all spaces in this temple. The Tibetans have made me truly realize that I'm a foremost spirit with a body, instead of a body with a spirit. Namaste. As I leave the temple, I purchase a small pamphlet written by the Dalai Lama. Very inspiring from the man who exudes the true meaning of the ocean of compassion. I've truly garnered a newfound respect for this great man. What a unique life he leads. I hope to actually see His Holiness before we leave this place. A monkey was shot today by an Indian shopkeeper here in this Tibetan town. Apparently the monkeys were being aggressive and interfering with shoppers in the only Indian store in town. A French guy who has been feeding the monkeys earlier drags the dead monkey into town and dumps it in front of the store. A small uproar is turning into a mass bereavement as word spreads through town amongst all the Tibetans. I come upon the scene after the fact, so I ask around to get the whole story. The wounded monkey appeared to be the leader of the pack. He ran out of town after being shot. Then a whole crew of monkeys gathered with him up in a tree. They all made a great clamor, jumping up and down and screeching in unison in the high treetops. Then the wounded monkey dropped out of the tree, dead. His cohorts came down from the tree and tried to revive him by shaking him. When the French guy dragged the dead monkey in front of the shop is when I came upon the scene. Crowds gathered around the dead animal and the local police arrived. The Buddhists preached giving love and respect to all living beings, from insect on up to humans. This blatant killing is quite painful to the local Tibetan inhabitants. Bad feelings of group sadness permeate the community. I wander on back to the Tibetan memory to check on Richard and Roger. We met a blonde-haired guy from Winnipeg, Canada named Don, and he has joined us in our room to defray more of the costs. I see the three guys coming downstairs from the hotel to the street. Hey guys, let's grab a bite to eat together, I suggest. Hey, Woodstock, greets Don. What is all that about the crowd down the road? Yeah, says Roger. People are quite upset about something. A monkey was shot and killed by an Indian shopkeeper. But that explains it, interjects Richard. The Tibetans aren't good with that. No, they're not. It's a major travesty of their spiritual principles to kill anything, I say. Well, there's nothing we can do about it, so let's grab a lunch here at the restaurant and discuss the rest of the week, says Richard. The four of us sit at a table and choose from either noodles and vegetables in a soup or fried in a pan. I did some checking around. It appears we may be able to have an audience with the Dalai Lama on Friday, says Roger. I submitted our names earlier at the temple. There was room on the list for about a dozen names. Only 2 other names were on the list before us. The hand of God seems to be moving us down the long and winding road, says Richard. Our Tolkien journey continued onward. Hey, Woodstock? I already saw the Pope in Rome, I respond, so this completes my spiritual circle, sing the Dalai Lama. What about you, Don? Inquires Roger. You going to see the Dalai Lama with us, mate? No thanks. I have to bow out of that event. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't understand this Buddha stuff, and I don't care to. It's not for me. I'm not a religious guy or spiritual guy. Life is simple for me. I just live to have fun and be happy. Speaking of fun, says Richard, let's go try and have some new sticky bud I picked. It smells fantastic. Let's get a good bus going. After we finish our meal, the four of us go for a walk into the lush mountain jungle and share the local bud in a toke circle amongst ourselves. Now this is fun, eh? Chimes in Don, a hippie from Canada. My thoughts are flowing on where I'm heading next. Delhi holds the solutions for my being able to continue this journey. My money needs are critical. By the time we get there, I will be flat busted. I pray my family sends some funds. What happens when I arrive if there's no letters for me at the American Express office? Perish the thought. I'm heading in the right direction in my personal search for my truth. Buddhism is indeed very interesting to me. So many roads all lead to only one God. I'm becoming attuned with the Om vibration of the universe. This place puts my mind so at ease, natural bliss. I stayed up real late tonight by myself out on the street, just gazing upward at the sky. The Milky Way is as plain as can be. A huge band of light spreads across the sky to its end at each horizon, as if rising out of the mountains that engulf me. The ocean of stars is ever bright and twinkling as the galaxy summons my attention. It is the most fantastic night sky I have ever seen. Nepal looms large in my mind. Many of the intrepid travelers around here have been to Nepal, and the rave reviews come from all corners. Everybody loves Nepal. It's a hippie wonderland paradise, I've been told by many. I'm getting better with my food choices as I'm learning how to live in India. The local custom is such that everybody seems to enjoy every variation of hot and spicy foods in India. This doesn't work for me, so I must request no spices or hot sauce. For example, I come upon a proprietor frying cakes of just plain potatoes at a street corner cart. The vendor serves the food on a small plate. Just before handing it to me, he splashes 3 sauces on it, just like all the locals like it. I refuse to take the order until he makes me a fresh set of cakes without the sauces. The vendor looks at me as if I'm nuts as I eat my naked fried spud with a small fork. Yum. We will soon be leaving here and making our way to Delhi. I'm ready to get moving along. It's Friday, and the day has finally arrived for us to have audience with the Dalai Lama. Richard, Roger, and I are excited over this impending event. I'm pumped, man. This should be a memorable moment, I say. I wonder what he'll speak on, says Richard. Maybe he'll just say a few prayers and meditate, says Roger. You think he can levitate when he meditates? Inquires Richard. Even if he can, I doubt very seriously he would do that in front of just anybody from the public. Then the seriousness of what he represents spiritually would become like a sideshow, I say. Like Jesus walking on water or performing healing miracles, the regular natives in society aren't ready for that, says Richard. Do you have a question for the Dalai Lama? If they let us ask him anything, inquires Roger. I'd like to understand reincarnation and the afterlife because it makes no sense to me, I say. I find it hard to believe in reincarnation. It's not believable to me. It challenges my logic and reasoning to no end. I don't believe in blind faith. I must have proof and evidence. I want to know that I know and not take someone's word for it. I know what you mean, mate, says Richard. If the soul is eternal, then what does it do after living a short human life? Even if you live to be 100, it's still a short life when compared to all eternity. If we do come back, in reincarnation again and again, what happens to the personality of our consciousness with each succeeding lifetime? What if each of us has lived over 800 lifetimes, for example? How does one lifetime impact other lifetimes? Inquires Roger. I'm just concerned about the soul that is me now, not who I may have previously been or who I may become in another lifetime, I say. The life I live right now is all I can handle. I care about nurturing my mind and soul to its highest potential in this life. I just can't fathom anything before or after. It's all speculation to me without scientific proof. I guarantee it's not a speculative issue to the Tibetan Buddhist monks. They know that reincarnation is real, says Raja. We walk from the Tibetan Memory Hotel over to the temple compound. We are directed to a small building. There are about 20 Tibetans gathered, as well as 10 of us traveling hippie freaks. We are all checked thoroughly and a pat-down from the tight security. Here in India, the Dalai Lama is treated like a foreign head of state. We all sit in a semicircle in chairs outside by the entrance porch. Suddenly the door opens and His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, walks out on the porch to greet his audience. He is less than a dozen feet from me. We all bow to his presence. Namaste. I am momentarily starstruck with living history. There he is, the great man himself in the flesh. The Dalai Lama begins to speak, and it is suddenly quiet enough to hear a pin drop. All eyes are focused on him with reverence. He only speaks in Tibetan to his people, so we cannot understand a word of what he is saying. After a short prayer, he departs. Our audience with the Dalai Lama is over. We look at each other in bewilderment. That's all, folks? It's time for us to get back on the road again. We board a bus and start rolling down the highway once again. We are growing accustomed to the flashes of breathtaking scenery while traveling through the lush green mountains. We're on the road all day until 6 in the evening. We arrive in the town of Mandi, still in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. We get settled in a hotel for the evening. I meet a couple of hippie freaks playing guitars in an adjoining room. They just arrived here after hitching from Delhi. That means I'm getting close to my destination target. Next morning, we get back on the road to hitchhike. We walk a couple of miles out of town, but can't manage to catch a ride. Then the rain comes. We take cover under the porch of an abandoned building road agency building. Then, when the rain subsides some 4 hours later, we walk back into town and catch a bus. Another day of a long, grueling bus ride from the mountains into the plains. We get dropped off in a town called Chandigarh, designed by the renowned French architect Le Corbusier. It is boring and out of place. The railway station is 5 miles out of town. We walk to the train depot and purchase tickets to Delhi. I'm now in the final stretch. The train ride gets us to the bustling city in the evening. Old Delhi is an absolute mind-blower. I've never experienced anything comparable. The density of people is astounding. People, poverty, oxen, carts, scooters, cows, donkeys, filth is an overload to the senses. I feel so minuscule here, as it's shoulder-to-shoulder people squeezing through the streets. I'm claustrophobic, and I fear I could drown in a sea of shit. Delhi is just too much for me. Through all the chaos, we finally locate a cheap hotel in the old city. It feels so great to be in a room away from the unending masses of people on the streets. In the morning, I head off to American Express office right away. I take a pedal rickshaw to New Delhi, which was built by the English with a European feel and style. Quite a contrast to the mayhem of old Delhi, stayed instead with grand boulevards and traffic circles. I have several letters from buddies back home, a letter from an old girlfriend, and most importantly, a letter with a check for my family. I cash the $300 check and turn it into traveler's checks, the best way to go. Then I set off for the U.S. Embassy to get a brief extension on my visa that just expired a couple days ago. Now I can continue to the last leg of my journey to Nepal. The money situation can really put a person in a bind. I don't know what I would have done without the money sent from home. I'm glad I don't have to find out. The letters I received are nice, but they have less impact on me since I've been gone so long. Home feels so far away as a distant planet when compared to India. The next day, Richard, Roger, and I go to the Nepal embassy. The two blokes will be departing for Australia from Nepal. We've been a traveling team for quite a while, but I will be ready to be on my own soon. We've been getting snippy with each other lately. The heat and humidity coupled with the endless people makes for a recipe of short tempers. I accompany the guys to a phone booth as they call family in dear old England. They're both really homesick now. I feel more distant from my kin. Talking with my people back home would be too much for me. I'm insulated myself from those emotions and thoughts. I buy a book, The Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. A friend back home had previously turned me on to this book. In a short passage, the author writes about a guru called Babaji, who is known as the Deathless Wonder. It is said the guy is over 500 years old. He lives right here in the mountains of India in the Himalayas. I hang out at the hotel and read most of the day. I shall continue to search for truth in my own way. India as a whole gives me great vibrations. It's time to leave the congestion of Delhi. We board a train for Agra. We're going to journey ahead to see the Taj Mahal. After our train ride through the plains and jungles of India, we get off in the bustling city of Agra. We locate a cycle rickshaw driver who wheels us out to the Red Fort. The fort is a conglomeration of palaces, mosques, and other royal things set inside a humongous red-walled city. The fabulous complex is surrounded by jungle in all directions. We catch a glimpse of the Taj Mahal from afar. It is a thrill to see it in the distance, the famous image I've seen so many times in pictures. It's a magnificent sight, spectacularly beautiful and sublime above the junglescape. We take a bicycle rickshaw over to the Taj, glimpsing the stunning white onion-shaped dome as we go. We are let off and glide up the long walkway to arrive at the white marble stairs. What a thrill to ascend the stairs and walk by the long ivory marble reflecting pond, then up the marble stairs into this world-famous structure. The inside is very simple, with two large white stone tombs upstairs and two just like them downstairs. The false sarcophagi of Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan are in the main chamber below the incredible main dome. The actual tombs of Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan are in the lower level and extra safe keeping to ward off grave snatchers. The Shah built the Taj for his wife Mahal, who died at a very young age, leaving the Shah devastated. He was building a black Taj for himself on the other side of the river, but was overthrown and imprisoned by his own family for wasting the riches of the empire. Only the foundation was laid for the mausoleum across the river. Instead, his family built the larger tomb for him off to the side next to his bride in the Taj Mahal. It is wonderful to meander a bit to various spots in the gardens around the main structure and to sit on the lawn and contemplate over the powerful yet simply classic architecture. The reality of the place just blows my mind. We spend a couple of days in Agra city before heading back out on the road. It is a vibrant, exciting city with a great market area. A holy man walks up to me and draws a two-colored third eye on my forehead in red framed by black. I am cosmic. I am everywhere. Past, present, future. I am at one with my soul. My cosmic connection vibrates to my core. We board a train to Agra to Mughal Sara. It's a grueling, rickety train ride experience, squeezing into third class with all the natives. It's a long, hot, humid day in late June, just another day in paradise. The great Indian train system is the lifeblood of the country the English left behind. Mile after mile, we soak in the myriad sights, sounds, and smells of India. We feel the clickety-clack of the tracks with the steam engines whistle blowing. We disembark at Mughal and board a bus for the final 16 kilometers to the great holy city of the Hindus on the river Ganges, Benares, also known as Varanasi. It's 1 in the morning when we find an expensive room at a nice hotel for 5 rupees apiece. It's still well worth it because this city is so grungy, and all the dirt and grime and sweating during travel makes one uncomfortable being so filthy and smelly in your own skin. It's great to step out of all the chaos of the teeming city to get cleaned up and well rested. On the way here, I see an elephant on the road, and there are camels, pigs, oxen, and cows roaming the streets. Next day, I mill about the hotel a bit, then go on a wandering journey in the holy area by the Ganges River. The waterway is very wide and green. I see groups of people surrounding piles of wood, burning dead bodies along the steps called ghats that go down to the holy river. I feel the heat of the fires blow back at me from my upper vantage point and try not to inhale the smoke that seems to stink of the smoldering bodies. Morbid, surreal, otherworldly reality. Next day, we board a train from Benares to Patna along the road to Kathmandu. It's the last day of June 1971, and I'm finally closing in on Nepal, a separate country nestled in the Himalayas as due north. There's an airport in Patna. The constant train rides, not enough sleep, and bordering on other exhaustion is just too much at a certain point. We've heard we can catch a plane for $6 to take us directly to Kathmandu, avoiding a rigorous journey by river, train, and bus through jungles and mountains. We hustle off the train and take a small taxi to the airport, only to discover there are no scheduled flights for today or tomorrow. Our plan isn't going to work. We've got to get back on a train. We take a ferry boat ride up the river a few hours to connect with a train ride on a narrow gauge rail for another 12 hours on the train. I'm in an exotic, untouched area of India in which bare-breasted women sell bananas from huge stalks in the train stations. We spend the rest of the night at the train station in Raxal at the Nepalese border. We board a bus in the morning that takes us right to the border.